Now that you've gone through the process of organizing your filing system, you should be in a good place to start thinking about compiling the information you're going to need to file your business tax return. So let's take a look at some of the sections in the Schedule C. Let's go ahead and start off with the income section. This is pretty self-explanatory. You're going to want to report your gross sales minus your returns and allowances minus your cost of goods, and then you want to add in any other income, such as interest income. This will give you your total gross income. Here it's worth noting that the cost of goods is different from an expense. By definition, cost of goods sold refers to the direct cost of producing the goods sold by a company. This amount includes the cost of materials and labor directly used to create the good. These costs tend to fluctuate with trends in the business. For instance, if you are in the landscaping business, you may purchase more sod and fertilizer in the summer and spring than you would in the winter. The sod and the fertilizer purchase would be considered a cost of good along with direct labor attributed to the job or to the project. If you have the type of business that holds inventory, you likely will be using the cost of goods section on line 42 of the Schedule C to enter this on line 4. So let me just show you where that's located. And that will be here, this section from line 35 to 42. So now let's go back up. Now that we've touched base on income and how that's calculated, we're going to take a look now on the expenses category. Here you simply break out and report the money spent throughout the year for each line item, and then you report the total. An expense differs from a cost of good in that it is not a cost directly associated with producing the good. These costs are generic in nature and they tend to be more fixed. Using the same example, let's say that same landscaping company has a warehouse and a business office. The rent and the utilities for this location will happen regardless of their sales volume, and the owner will have to pay this expense each month. This is a necessary cost of the business but cannot be tied back to a sales item. Another example would be the license and permits. Every business will spend money toward a business license or a city permit. Most of the times, these will be generic in nature and will not be tied back to a sales item, therefore would end up on Part 2, expenses, rather than cost of goods. Of course, it's worth having a conversation with your tax preparer or accountant for guidance on this matter. I do want to point out that you must enter expenses for business use of a home on line 30, and those expenses should not be allocated to Part 2 of the Schedule C. So here you're going to use this line item to report your home office use. Any expense that occurred throughout the year that does not fall neatly into these categories must be broken out and be put under other expenses. So let's take a look at where that needs to be on the form. And that's going to be right here. And you want to put in a good description of the expense and the total amount. And that's only if it doesn't fit in the other categories that were listed above under expenses. So finally, what we want to look at is information for your vehicle. So this is related to claiming your vehicle as business use. Simply put, this is a mileage allowance allowed to be taken if you are using a vehicle for business use. The standard mileage for 2020 is 54.5 cents per mile. A log must be kept to prove the mileage in case of an audit. If you use mileage instead of actual expenses, you would not want to report your gas, maintenance, or auto insurance under expenses of the Schedule C. The 54.5-cent allowance has already considered these types of expenses and they have been included in the mileage allowance. So how do you come up with the final tally at the end of the year? Some business owners have kept track of this information throughout the year in a bookkeeping book or an Excel spreadsheet, and if you've done this and this works for you, then that's great. On the other hand, if you have put this aside and now you need to play catch up before the year ends, you can consider a bookkeeping or accounting program such as QuickBooks to quickly and efficiently compile the information you need. The QuickBooks software is a great tool to add to your technology war chest. If you are someone that would rather spend your time running your business than categorizing transactions, I would love to help. You can reach me anytime through the links on the website for a Zoom meeting or an in-person consultation if you're in the Portland, Oregon area. Talk to you soon.